What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Season Gaming Bitcast, episode 182. I am your host, Ainsley Bowden, and today we're going to be talking about a lot of things. Game Awards, Activision. We've got PlayStation, and we're talking about Spartacus, so you better be prepared. All right. As always, joined by my partners in crime. On my bottom left here, Mr. Stan Keeley himself. Rocking the Craig. Perfect time for the Craig shirt as well. I like it, sir. How you doing, brother?
That's right, man. It's in the rotation. That's how it goes. I'm ready to go. Let's do this. I had a week off. Feel
Yeah, that's right. I forgot you weren't here last week. So welcome back.
Well, great. That's awesome. I'm glad I made such a strong impression. Oh, yeah, he was gone.
Oh,
that's
yeah. Right. Dan's here again.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Let's do
it. As always, my well-dressed partner in crime, rocking a leather coat this morning, in addition to the tie, Mr. Tie Guy Travis himself.
McClunky, how are you doing, Ains? I am feeling good, hot off of completing the Halo Infinite multiplayer wiki and awarding IGN's lowest review score of the year. So it's been a week for me, man. I'm just ready to play some Halo next week when the campaign drops. So
I was gonna suggest that next week's show we just live stream Nerf Legends. Is that good?
Oh, that would be physically impossible, most likely. That would be my guess on that one.
And joining us for the first time, friend of the show and host of Project XTalk, an Xbox weekly podcast, is Mr. Kevin Ainsworth. You know him as the Muffin Man. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Again, thank you so much for the invite, Ains. And Travis, the chat says you look dapper, and I agree. You look phenomenal. Maybe my show needs to step it up. We're lacking in the quality attire.
It's what I'm known for. You got to go hard with these kids out here. Teach them, give them something to aspire to. That's my goal. So
that's what I always say. Chat, good to see you this morning. Well, like I said, guys, we've got some good topics today. We've got like we said,
we got to introduce our guest, though.
What?
We got to introduce our guest.
I don't know where you're going with this.
Kevin, the Muffin Man.
I just introduced him.
Give him more of a proper introduction. I mean, we've got to really intro this guy, man.
You've thrown me completely off now.
My first thought is he wants you to sing the "Do You Know the Muffin Man" song.
Yes, and
okay.
Come on.
If you want to sing the song, you are free to do so, my friend.
I want Dan to sing the song.
We'll see you guys next week. It's been a great show today. All right, 10 o'clock. Halo talk. Oh man.
All right. So, anyway, we're gonna be talking about PlayStation's new subscription service that they're apparently going to launch in spring. The scoop from Bloomberg. We're going to be talking, like I said, about Battlefield, new direction, Activision, some layoffs that occurred that we'll touch on, as well as some updates to Halo Infinite as well. So before we get to that, why don't we talk about what we've been currently playing?
We're killing it this morning.
I know, wide awake. So, Kev, I'll start with you, man. So, what you been up to lately? Anything good? What you been playing?
Been grinding Halo Infinite. I think as most human beings in the gaming verse at the moment. I have one weekly challenge left, which is get 3 kills with a pulse carbine. And if you've seen my Twitter, you know that this is the most useless weapon in the game, in my opinion. I literally cannot kill a single human being with this gun. I don't any other weapon. I had one that was like get 20 kills with a mangler. I got that in like 2 matches. I was like, this is so much easier. I don't understand why I am useless with the pulse carbine.
So you've got a guy who did the wiki here, and I could comment as well. But yeah. Travis, why don't you give our man here some tips with the plasma carbine, man?
Yeah, the plasma carbine, like a lot of weapons in Halo Infinite, can be good, but it's extremely situational.
Yes.
The main problem with the pulse carbine is that it's really useless at close range. Sort of useful at medium range and really useful at far range, because the tracking on it gets better the farther you shoot at somebody. So if you're like aiming down hallways on Aquarius or on streets, the B zone and Control, that sort of like big open hallway, spaces like that are really good for the pulse carbine, because you fire at them and they think like, all right, well, I'll just sidestep this, and then it just like turns toward them at the end. The farther they are away, the better the tracking is, and so you can tear through their shield pretty easily. It's sort of like the disruptor pistol. Like getting through the shield is the easy part. It's actually getting like the final burst on them to get the kill, because plasma weapons do so little damage to health. But yeah, it's a weapon you could totally be competitive with. It's just a little more situational than other guns, kind of like the Ravager. Like, the Ravager can be a completely useless weapon depending on the mode, but if you're playing like Control or something, like it's really good, because you can just paint the ground with it and like do some serious damage. So yeah, I wrote the guide for all the weapons in the game. So I'm like, when people say that gun's useless, I'm like, no, you're just not using it right. Like, here, let me tell you it again. So
David Ellis on he also said something. He's one of the Halo designers, and he said something that I didn't know initially with the it's pulse carbine, as I said plasma carbine earlier. Pulse carbine is that to Travis's point, it tracks enemies, but it followed the bullets follow the reticle. So literally, as you're shooting at someone, just keep moving your reticle to follow the person trying to sidestep it, and they'll curve and hit them.
Yep.
So it can be very dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah, and the
tracking, get that kill.
Yeah, the tracking gets better at farther range because it has more time to like turn it. So yeah, you can really surprise people with it. I've been killed with it sometimes, and I'm like, damn, how did he get me? Like this guy knew his tracking well. So.
Wish I had known that beforehand, because I literally thought it was a close-up weapon. So I've been getting in. I was like, this thing does no damage. I don't understand.
Yeah. It's really bad up close. I feel like people use a lot of weapons. Like, you ever fight somebody who has a Ravager and they're just like doing the 3 burst at you, and you're like, dude, you're never gonna kill me with that. Like ever. Like you can hit me with that like 40 times and I'll still be standing. And they're like, why am I not killing this guy? It's like, because you're not using the weapon right.
Elu says, this is Travis on the other side of the writing the guide says, pain and exhaustion is our gain. Thank you for your service.
Yeah, man. I've spent probably 80% of my Halo Infinite playtime by myself in custom games. Like I know like how many shots it takes with any weapon to kill any vehicle in the game, like stuff like that. Like stuff you just shouldn't know about the game. It's kind of disgusting.
Well, thank you for helping me out.
Yeah, and be prepared, Kev, because after you finish that, you get the weekly ultimate, and the weekly ultimate is to win 17 games.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Wow.
Yes.
Right. So I haven't had time to play too much of Halo Infinite, so I think I still have like 6 or 7 bounties left, and then the weekly one. But I'm hoping to do that before Tuesday reset.
Yeah. All right. What else you guys been up to, man? Anything good? Nerf Legends? Multiplayer? You hitting that ranked Nerf Legends hard?
Yeah, if it were possible. Yeah, so for those who don't know, I gave a game a 2 out of 10 this past week, which is the lowest score I've ever given, and it's also IGN's lowest score for the year. A 1 at IGN is unbearable. That's the word, and unbearable basically is reserved for games that do not function. Nerf Legends is pretty close. Exactly half of the game does not function. The multiplayer, which you cannot play on any platform or in any way, the multiplayer just does not function. You cannot get into a match, and the campaign is barely functional. You can get through it, but it is like the game itself is the main obstacle you're fighting, rather than any of the enemies or puzzles in the game, because it crashes on you and screams beeping noises at you every single time you pick up a health item, and just is generally like a painful experience to get through. So I think my tagline for that review was that Nerf Legends is a painful, barely functional game that you shouldn't even consider playing as a joke. And the reason I chose that phrasing is because when people see a 2 out of 10, it's kind of like you ever have a friend who smells something really bad and his first instinct is to get all of his friends to try to smell it, you know? He's like, oh, dude, smell this, you know? I'm trying to avoid that, because I genuinely think people should not spend a full $60. It's a $60 game on something that actually doesn't work at all. So yeah, I'm a little worried that there's going to be a lot of moms and aunts and uncles out there whose kids will no longer be speaking to them because they purchased this game for the holidays. And usually, actually, IGN does not review games that score this low because we try to focus on games we think people actually care about. But this one, because it's a Nerf game, we figured that, again, it's going to have like mass market appeal to the people who don't know anything about games and don't know that this is a terrible game. And then also, the publisher reached out to us to offer a review code, and we said, okay, yeah, we'll review the game. And then the game came out, and we were like, so were we ever going to get that review code? And then a couple more days passed, and then they were like, hey, the developer's actually not giving us review codes. The PR agency told us that. And they were just like, we don't have any to give out. Like, they've been sort of like MIA. And then we were like, okay, well, that's weird that you would offer a review code and then not give one out. And my thinking was that they were just sort of like saying, don't review us yet, we'll give you codes. And then just kind of saw how long they could delay the game from the game coming out. Or I don't want to cast any kind of like, blame on anybody or anything like that, but it was just sort of a shady scenario where we were like, we should review it just to kind of see like what's going on here. And then after playing the game, we were like, oh yeah, well, if I were the developer, I wouldn't give out any codes either. Like,
wow,
this is crazy. So really, really bizarre situation.
Your review was the funniest thing I read all week.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah,
I read it and I was just cracking up because you had been telling me about it, and I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, it was very cathartic. I will say, I did say one thing on the show that I should retract, which is you do use Nerf guns in the game. I said that you didn't initially, and you actually do use Nerf guns, but in the trailers and the gameplay I had seen beforehand, you can't really tell. But in the actual game, you do use Nerf guns, which feels terrible, unfortunately. But it actually makes me sad because I feel like a Nerf game could be really good if you did it right. Like if you got like kind of a tongue-in-cheek kind of vibe and you made it like really over the top and stupid and stuff like that. And for some reason they just went for like a serious story, kind of like, I don't really even know if it has much of a story. It's basically like you're fighting 5 dudes, but the tone is like completely wrong. It's like such an off-color game. So it's very unfortunate.
DE says, any Nerf or nothing, choose nothing jokes.
In my original draft, but none of them made it to the final review. They had to tone down my review. I say that the game made me want to kill myself in the review. I just wanted to like, and that's like a throwaway joke. Like,
you don't want to put that out there.
Yeah, I got away. No, that one actually made it in. So if you can imagine the stuff that got cut,
I don't remember reading that.
It's a very subtle joke. I say that in order to solve one of the glitches, you have to make your character kill themselves. And I was like, but that's not the only way Nerf Legends made me want to end it all. So it's like a very like kind of roundabout way of saying the game made me want to kill myself in the game. but yeah, some stuff did get the Nerf or nothing. And if you go to the comment section on YouTube or in IGN, everybody else made that joke for me. So there you go.
It's funny because I requested a review code for that game and they were like, codes aren't coming, like we'll let you know when they're available. And then I just never heard back from anything. And then I read your review and I was like, I'm okay with not getting a code for this one.
Yeah, I honestly think that they just sort of were like holding the line, like, all right guys, we'll give you codes, and then kind of just like seeing how long they could put up that excuse. And I actually ended up having to buy the game with my own money and then reimbursing it to the company because they were just like, just buy the game. Like, I don't think these guys are being real with us. I don't think they're ever going to give us a code. And they haven't given anybody codes. And apparently it's because the PR agency doesn't have any to give out because the developers straight up just not giving them out, which playing the game. My review is actually one of the only reviews online of that game, which I guess that explains why.
Yes, nobody we are not reviewing it, just to be clear.
You don't want to spend $60, man? Come on, man.
No.
Let's do it. Get it out there.
What kind of a it's kind of a hilarious talking point on the industry today when you think that Nerf Legends, right, is $60 plus tax, and Halo Infinite is free to play and playable via Game Pass.
Yeah, and I feel like
games are getting, that happen?
Games are getting like more aware of how much they should cost too. Like Canna Bridge of Spirits was like a $40 game and stuff like that. It's just
highly rated.
Crazy. Yeah, and highly rated, and it's just crazy that somebody could be so off the mark. I mean, it's It's made by a
Nerf.
developer called the Game Mill, and I think Hasbro like was involved with because it's their property. So
I think the Game Mill also made the G.I. Joe game that got terrible reviews, if I remember correctly.
And the racing game
They published Nick All-Star Brawl from Ludosity.
That's right. That's right.
I saw that.
Which I actually stand that game. I love that game. So.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I kind of. It could have been bad, but in a good way, like EDF or something like that, you know. But it wasn't. It didn't even get that far. It just didn't function. So it's unfortunate.
Dan, let me hit these super chats real quick.
Yeah, man.
Tao got us like right out of the gate here.
Yeah, $10 super chat. Thank you, sir. Hello, Jens. Dan still waiting on Boyfriend Dungeon stream.
Yeah,
Travis, keep up the good fight. And Ains, because we're family, tag him with fast gifts again.
No, please don't.
Nice.
No,
We
got off of that.
Tao is my favorite commenter here. He's like always telling Dan to play Boyfriend Dungeon, which I absolutely stan. He's always telling Ains to embrace Fast and Furious, which one of these days I will convert him. It's great, man. Good job, Tao. You're the best.
Tao,
I'll convert you, bro.
And Mr. Luke himself.
Yeah, Luke, the $2 super chat. Rank your Halo campaigns, not including Infinite. I mean, it's impossible for some of us that can't do it. So I don't even know. I couldn't even sit here and rank them because I don't remember most of them, except for Reach.
Wow.
Reach was amazing, and I really liked 2 for some reason. Those
are 2 of the most highly regarded ones usually. So
really, Reach is up there. I'm surprised.
Yeah, Reach is always up there now. It wasn't at launch. It is now.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think it's a good game. I don't know if it's a good Halo game. That's my complaint about it. But
Halo 4 has always been Halo 4 was my favorite.
Nice. So I think when people talk about campaign, I'm thinking of the levels and the level design and the fights that you engage in PvE, and I think of story separately. So when people talk about campaigns, I actually think Halo 4 is at the bottom. That campaign is basically you just walking through hallways shooting things. It's not very fun.
I think more people think story.
But the story is really good. So I try to separate the two. To me, it's like campaign, which are the levels you actually play in campaign mode, story separately, and then multiplayer. That's how I tend to divvy it up.
Hey, our Naked Clothing sponsor's back.
Nice, dude.
Woo! Dude, they hit us up on Thursday.
I'm really waiting for them to talk about those online strips with clothing. You know what I mean? Also, a quick question: how do you strip online without clothing? So there's no clothing at all involved in these strips. What are they stripping? That's my
skin.
Skin. Yeah. Stripping their skin off.
They're stripping their skin off. It's fantastic.
Nice, dude.
So to Luke's point, Kev, if you are, I don't even know, are you a big Halo fan?
Yes, yeah, absolutely love Halo. And I responded to Luke's tweet last night with my ranking. It was 2, 1, 3 Reach, and then I put ODST 5 and 4. 4 is my least favorite Halo, and I went back and forth with Luke on this when he was first on Project XTalk. Because he can't believe I like 5 more than 4, but
I can't either. I don't know why you're on this show, to be honest.
I'm surprised to hear you put all the other ones before it. That's I kind of you're talking about just campaign, right? You can't be talking about multiplayer because 4 is not.
I don't like 4 multiplayer. I don't like 4 as a game in general, to be honest.
Wow.
It's my least favorite Halo of any Halo I've played, which I know is controversial.
That is. I mean, the story. I feel like the story redeems it, but I agree that the campaign itself, it's it kind of made it. It's the most linear by far, I think. And then
it is very linear, but the
multiplayer is also not good. It's Call of Duty basically.
Mm-hmm. So. Yep. 2 is my favorite multiplayer. Well, until Infinite came out. I think Infinite's probably my favorite multiplayer.
I thought even 5 was better in terms of multiplayer. Yeah,
I like 5 multiplayer was incredible until Infinite. So anyway, all right. Thank you guys for the super chats. Any other current games been playing that we want to talk about?
Oh yeah.
As he ponders,
I can't remember.
I played Sonic Forces this week on PS Now. I don't know why.
How'd it work? Well,
yeah. I mean, you can download that one, but it's a bad game. So if you want to waste 3 hours of your life playing a Sonic game, Go for it.
We had a
There's one that
Sonic stand
released-
here last week. Somebody was
We
talking
did?
about how good Sonic is. Yeah.
We did. Everborn is a big Sonic stan, yes.
I
Although
was
he
just
did
doing
admit
some
that
hard
Sonic
blanks.
Colors was atrocious.
That's
So,
true.
yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Sonic fans always have to admit that their franchise is like dying and like very much struggling. But
It's the quality control on the Sonic games as a whole has been not the best. So.
little Hasbro-esque, I would say.
So, all right. Well, let's go ahead and get into the main topic then, which the scoop out of Bloomberg yesterday, I believe, was that PlayStation is or has been working on a updated service. It's hard to say new based on the information, but updated subscription service that is going to launch in the spring. Essentially, right now, it's here's what we know, which is it's going to combine PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now. It's going to retain the PS Plus name in some form, but PS Now is going to kind of be phased out. It is going to have 3 tiers according to the documents they received. The first tier being just basically, I guess, a combination of those platforms. The second tier being one that offers a large catalog of PlayStation 4 and eventually PlayStation 5 games over time. And then the third tier, highest tier, would also have all of that and include a library of and game streaming of classic PS1, 2, 3, and PSP games. So Jason Schreier broke this. And obviously, the thought process here is that they're trying to evolve their services to compete with Xbox Game Pass in some form. It's even codenamed, according to the documents internally, as Spartacus, which is kind of hilarious when you think about it. So
why is it hilarious to you? Because I have my own reason why I think Spartacus.
I think it's hilarious because the obvious reason, which is just that they're looking at this as going some kind of champion, if you will, to fight against insurmountable odds, if you will. But that's why I find it funny. What's your reasoning?
My reasoning is because the first thing I thought when they said codename Spartacus was that scene in the old Spartacus movie where everybody who isn't Spartacus shouts, "I am Spartacus."
Spartacus.
And my thinking was that it was like what he said. Like they're looking at Game Pass and they're like, "I am Spartacus. I am Game Pass," right? Like they're just like copying them. That's what it made me think of. It was like, oh, so they're just like basically looking at Game Pass and going, "No, I am Game Pass." It's like, okay, well,
nice.
It just cracked me up. But
yeah, it's so kind of want to break this down a bit, guys, because we're not alone in talking for months, if not a couple years now, about PlayStation eventually doing something right in this space to evolve and have a competitor to Game Pass directly, because PlayStation Now just hasn't been it, right? It's just not on the same level. Its subscription base is less than 3 million users, if I recall correctly, which is not even in the same ballpark as Game Pass. And it's clear, based on just the direction of the industry, that we don't have to cover all the Game Pass and other subscription service news. But PlayStation needs something stronger in this vein. So this isn't really a surprise. What I am surprised about, based on the information we have, is that this doesn't seem like too much that's new. This looks more like a combination of what exists, which seems surprising to me. And we don't know. We don't have all the details. We'll see what it looks like when it launches. But based on what Schreier was reporting, this just looks like a combination of PS Plus and PS Now, and you can buy as much of it as you want on a monthly basis. Mm-hmm. It doesn't seem like a Game Pass competitor, in my opinion. They haven't said anything, well, at least yet, around like new third-party deals. The wording around PlayStation 5 games says eventually they'll come to the service, which again doesn't seem to indicate any faster speed to market from PlayStation 5 titles going on to the subscription service. And you could already play classic titles via PS Now, already stream them anyway. So I don't know if this is just simply a rebranding, and it's going to kind of bring a price point that may be a little more competitive than it is now to have PS Plus and PS Now separately. But in my opinion, if this is it and that's all they're doing, they're still missing the mark. Where are you guys at based on what we said here? Kev, I'll start with you, man.
Yeah, so I am actively using PlayStation now. Right now, I got a 3-month trial. I got 3 months a few weeks ago because I wanted
Okay.
to replay through all the Sly Cooper games because
Okay.
PS5 is my first PlayStation ever. So I've
Really?
missed out. Yeah, I missed out on everything basically, except for Jack and Daxter back in the day. I stole my dad's PS2 and played those.
Great games.
But essentially, like I went into it and I was like, all right, I'm not going to try to compare this to Game Pass. And then, I have a video coming out Monday that's comparing it to Game Pass. Pretty timely now that they've announced this. But the catalog just isn't there in my opinion, and it's not like there's a distinct lack of first party titles in PlayStation now. You have a few, like The Last of Us 2 is there for like another 2 months. You have the old God of War games, you have the old Ratchet and Clank and the Sly Cooper games. Outside of that, there really isn't many big first party games in there. And then you go looking for the big third party games, and I struggle to find those. That's why I'm playing things like Sonic Forces. It's just a very weak, almost shovelware-esque catalog to a certain degree. So, in my opinion, when I first read this, I was like, okay, Game Pass competitor. But if they're just combining the services, which the more I think about it, the more I read, that seems to be the route they're actually going. They need to vastly improve the quality of titles on the catalog for it to have any chance. Because if they just take what they have there now and combine it with PS Plus, which is a good deal, like I'd probably subscribe to that regardless, it's still not going to compete with Game Pass in my opinion. Because the big draws are the first party titles day one and the big third party games that we get. Like, you see the Outriders, you go in there, you have Scarlet Nexus launching, or not launching, but coming in there. You have those other big third party games. And I think that's really what we're going to have to see PlayStation invest in. And that remains to be seen because they haven't done that for PlayStation now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's very fair. And Elu in the chat is kind of echoing you. Kevin on point here. Sony's identity is their first party games. They need to find a way to put them on the service on release date. I don't think they'll do this though. Yeah, and that's been the discussion many of us have had, right? Is that PlayStation's identity is their first party. It's what draws people to the platform. I would say one of the key things that draws them to the platform beyond brand recognition. But the conversation has always been, will they ever get to a point where they release first party games day and date to a service? I don't know, maybe that's a long-term thing, but my current opinion is they'll speed up that market, right? It's been 2 to 3 years later with PS Now currently, and that hasn't won them any favor. So I have to think they're rethinking that approach and start to speed that up, both to PC and to service. So we'll see. Dan, what do you think, man? I know you play, you kind of play pretty regularly on PlayStation. I don't believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you use PlayStation Now.
No.
But what's this sound like to you? Is this intriguing or is it just more of the same?
No, it doesn't sound interesting at all to me. It sounds like Game Pass's whole thing, and the identity of Game Pass is that first party day and date game, right? To be fair, we haven't seen. I mean, I think April is when my dollar thing runs out. When I got my 3 years, so I haven't had any reason to complain. Once that's over, I need to start seeing some more first party stuff. Once those games start hitting for Game Pass, it's going to be amazing. I don't think PlayStation is going that route. I don't think they really have to right now, and I don't know if they really have to compete necessarily with Game Pass. I think. Subscription services are very, subjective when it comes to value. So it's, you can get a certain amount out of it. I might get something completely different. Now, saying that there's Forza and and Halo within a month or two, that's amazing for somebody like me, maybe, but for the guy over here that plays, the FIFAs, the Call of Duties, maybe not. I could see them maybe doing some stuff with, say, like MLB franchise. They might throw that on their third tier or whatever that's going to be, because they can, because we know that money and that revenue stream is really from the stubs and the online players. That's where the games are going to make their money, and putting it up there for people to access for nothing, that would be, something that they could do and probably be very, very profitable on. So, and we saw last year with, how many people started playing MLB, on Xbox when it released on Game Pass. This year. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, this year. I'm thinking we're next year already. All right. Yeah. But yeah, the last iteration of it. So, it's possible with games like that, but you have to have good games like that. That's really the key. The Destruction All-Stars and these other little,
I remember that game.
Things. Yeah, right. Yeah, these things aren't going to cut it. When you've got you've got Microsoft on one hand who's looking to get some of that Sony magic with those first party titles, right? PlayStation doesn't seem to be reaching for that multiplayer area to me, like what Halo has or Gears brings, or even Forza to a certain extent, and having that kind of game, you just don't see it. And that's really where I think the market is. I mean, that's where you're going to make, I think, most of your income in the future, but, keep doing your first party stuff. That's fine. If you want to throw it on here, I might get it, but it has to be a more consistent, flow of games. You get to the point where you're just like, I look at my Game Pass. I haven't really downloaded anything since Forza. And before that, it really wasn't anything since MLB. Like I'm more of those big games, like all these little indie games, like I can give a crap less about. So, but with that being said, it's an option because I have it, and it's there to. It's like I've said it before. It's kind of like my demo, demo service, and I just don't. But that's me. You guys are probably completely different. And
I need you to watch this back and see Travis's expression when you said you don't care about the indie games.
I don't. I will continue to say. That being said, I did download that new Warhammer 40K one that's on there because I'm a huge 40K fan. I don't know what it is. I played like the tutorial. What's it called? It's a brand new one. It just released on Game Pass. Oh. No, Battle something. I don't know. It plays like a almost like an XCOM squad-based XCOM thing where you've got like it's actually wasn't too bad, but I've only played like an hour, so I can't really speak on it. But stuff like that. That's what for me Game Pass is for. It's like, oh, okay, this might be cool, or I find like a cool little indie every once in a while. But
and Mark said Battle
Sector. That's it. Yep.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, awesome. But the value I think is there for most people, in this group of people / community, but I think for the masses, once those first party titles from Xbox start hitting Game Pass is going to be incredible. I don't ever think PlayStation is going to do that until, I don't know, man. Until they come to a point where they release like a first party game, something like Days Gone, where maybe it doesn't do so well critically and financially, and they go, man, maybe we could have got more people on it through this service, and made money on this service, because that's the end game for all these people. It's not. I mean, you can say what you want, but they don't give a crap.
And that's what Matt is echoing here too. Is I won't be subscribing to Sony Game Pass until they include first party. And I think that's probably going to be true for a lot of people. That's why I find this kind of decision. Well, we don't know yet, but that's why I find it interesting that. And I can only imagine the conversations that Sony's having or PlayStation's having internally about that, right? I'm sure Jim and many people have looked over the numbers 20 times over to see where it makes the most sense, because you do have the titles like Miles, right, and Spider-Man that is still maintaining its value and still selling well, and it's just got in the teens of millions of copies sold, and they have to weigh that value and the revenue stream there against what it would do for a service, which is I'd love to see all that behind the scenes, but it'd be interesting. I don't know about you guys, Travis. I know you have some thoughts, so we'll get to you too, but add this comment to yours. Is I personally, to Dan's point, would be willing to pay more, a decent amount more, if Sony were to include first party day and date, kind of like a Ubisoft Plus that they do on PC, where you pay, it's like $15 a month or $20 a month, whatever it is, but you get every Ubisoft title at launch. I would be up for that on the PlayStation side if they were to do it. So.
Well, we talked about that before, though. We it needs to hit that critical, tipping point, I think. And Game Pass is kind of the same way. And this is 5 years down the road for PlayStation. Xboxes and Microsoft are way closer, where you're getting that game every 1 or 2, every 2-3 months, that big game, and then everything else is kind of filled with either third party, which I think they've done a good job with so far, but I think that could push that service over the edge more so than the first party games, is getting third party games day and date. But you need to have that consistent content coming out, and that's going to push that service. I mean, what's it at now? Probably 30 million for Game Pass right now, something like that.
We believe it was in the high 20s, but that was before Forza, and now Halo launches this week. So
you could be looking at 50 to 60 million once you start getting that consistent, content, man. I mean, it's going to be insane. It's Microsoft found its groove for sure, and they've done a really good job so far. It's just, I once that big stuff starts hitting all the studios they acquired and all that, it's going to be outstanding. PlayStation just, I just don't think they could. They're coming in late, so they're playing from behind the ball, which is not usually what they are used to, especially last generation. So it's and they're still, it just seems like there's a lot of hesitancy from Jim Ryan and the bigger guys, like, hey, we don't really need to do this, and right now maybe not, but it looks like they're kind of testing the waters maybe, but it definitely doesn't compare to Game Pass in this,
from
in
what we know
have here. Yeah, from what we know, not even close.
Travis, I know you've been waiting.
Yeah, there's so much to like consider with this sort of thing. I do think that this is probably a mistake on PlayStation's end, and the reason for that is we kind of talked about this last week actually, where we said each of the console manufacturers is doing like their own strategy, and they're completely different from each other. And I kind of like that PlayStation has a walled garden with their exclusives that everybody like kind of like enters that platform to play, because there's not another console maker that's doing that, and it's sort of a unique thing to them. I think Xbox's move here has been really good, which is that they're in the marathon race with Sony, and PlayStation's way ahead of them, right? And they go, all right, well, I'm probably not going to be able to beat them to the finish line there, so I'm just going to start running this direction, right? I'm going to run to a completely different goalpost that's over here, and they take a 90-degree angle, start running that way, and now PlayStation's looking over their shoulder and going, wait, now I want to be there, and they're kind of like running the other way, and that, I think, when you're sort of like chasing somebody else and you're the second to market, second to come up with that's never a good position to be in. And PlayStation has been doing that for almost this entire generation, and pretty much all the different categories. They're like, oh, well, we're going to do what Xbox is doing too with it seems like with backwards compatibility, definitely with Game Pass, definitely with like their cloud services, definitely with their what was the other thing they recently changed to be more like Xbox? It's escaping me, but either way, they're sort of like chasing a little bit, and that's never a good position to be in. And I do think you have to be all in to make a service like this work. And Xbox is all in. They're like, yeah, we're going to put all of our games on it, and we have a ton of new first party games coming, and they're all going to be on it day and date. And I really don't think PlayStation's going to do that personally. I think it's probably unlikely that they do it day and date. It'll be more like what they did with their greatest hits collection, where they put all of their most popular games on the subscription service. But we'll see, man. Time will tell. I do think that there are a few things working in PlayStation's favor here. One is that Xbox already built the model, and they don't have to do the hard part of like building this entire idea, right? Because they can go to third-party games that are on Game Pass and go, hey, the subscription model is working for you guys over there. Why not put it over here where we have a lot more console owners? And then they can just sort of go, okay, yeah, and me too, a lot of those games, right? And I think that's huge. Now the industry's open to this sort of model, whereas they weren't before. So Xbox has opened up a bunch of doors for PlayStation that I think they could walk through pretty easily. So I think that is certainly helpful to them. And then they also have different developers that they have relationships with, and different publishers they have relationships with that might be willing to put it on their platform more than they're willing to put it on Xbox, especially when it comes to Japanese developers. So I think they have certain advantages that could make a Game Pass like subscription work for them, even if they're not going all in with their first party. So it'll be interesting. We'll have to see what they do. I really hope they move away from streaming games and actually let you download them. I don't know that they've commented on that yet. But I've got 3 gigabyte per second. I think it's like 3.4 gigs I get in San Francisco per second. Probably the fastest internet in the continental United States. And I still can't stream a lot of the video games well enough to get like a very responsive like input. And so I just don't think that that's the way. I think they need to get rid of that and just do a download. So
I do want to comment on that as someone using PlayStation Now. You only have to stream PlayStation 3 games. You can download all PS4 and then the 16 PS2 games that they have, which are just PS2, like they brought them to PS4. Like for the one thing I want to touch on is, Xbox is all in, and that's because they have the financial, but they're also doing a 2-pronged approach, right? They have the PC Game Pass and the Xbox Game Pass. So you can stream games from PS Now to PC. Do we think that with this new tier system, PlayStation's going to let you download games on your PC and really invest in that ecosystem too?
Garbage, man.
I would say down the line. I don't see that happening in spring. We know that PlayStation has been investing in, and someone in comments may remember, but there's a company they invested in recently that is primarily built for PC porting. So I could see that down the line, but I just don't see them being ready to do that sort of thing by spring. Mm-hmm. But to your point, Kev, I think the larger point you're trying to make is that Xbox has gone all in, not just on console, but PC, and they're doing a lot of things to help the PC community, especially with the largest games and everything else. And in fact, I'm on this ongoing Game Pass PC insider survey, because they know that the Game Pass PC side needs help. But I think PlayStation has definitely begun to realize that they need to support PC better, for sure.
Well, that in the cloud service, like that BattleTech, I didn't have to download it. I just played it because it's on my Xbox, right? So that was cool as hell. I was just like, oh yeah, they're going forward, adding that to the service, which already has, depending on who you are, substantial value. That's even better. I mean, that's cool as hell. I mean, that was the first time I've used that.
Yeah, and it worked well.
Yeah, had no problems, none whatsoever. It was just like boom, buttery smooth, brand new game, and I don't have to download it, and I can try it out, see how it is, and if I like it, then I can throw it on my system. It'll run better, maybe.
It's funny because for years we've been talking about, many of us have been kind of reflecting on the age of demos. You remember you used to get those demo discs with magazines and stuff, and we said, whatever happened to game demos? Like, they just kind of disappeared at one point. And now with the new technology, with Game Pass, with streaming and everything, it feels like these are our modern game demos. You just load something up, play it. If you like it, cool. If not, you don't have to think about it again. It's kind of interesting. Let me get to some of these comments. There's some good ones here. So Matt, good morning, Matt. By the way, Matt's helping me, Mr. Audiophile himself. If you ever need audio advice, Matt's the man. So much of the economy has shifted to a monthly subscription like pay service. People seem more inclined to spend when it's easier to fit into a monthly budget. I mean, it's fundamentally true that people budget as a monthly basis. This is why you have leases on cars. This is why mortgages are the way they are. This is why, credit card payments are the way they are. So, I think that's absolutely true, Matt, and part of this kind of larger conversation. Walt says they certainly make it work. Hulu was second to Netflix, and they are quite successful now. Yeah, and this is an interesting one because the way I view PlayStation, especially from the conversation we're having here and the strength of their first party, is I view PlayStation as the potential of being something more akin to Disney Plus, where Disney has all this IP ownership, right? And they came into the streaming game late, but look how fast they've grown simply because they took all their IP strength and said, oh, you want to watch, Mandalorian, or you want to watch, you guys know better than me, certain Marvel shows, you have to be on Disney Plus. Loki, you have to be on Disney Plus, period. And this is now our new walled garden, to Travis's point. Here's what you have. And they went from what, 0 to, I think they're over 100 million subs now. Disney Plus, I think they passed 100 million this year, which is astronomical, right? Because they just have so much IP strength. So yeah, again,
I
think
wonder if they'll also take a page from Disney Plus's book and have certain games within their Game Pass like service that you have to pay a premium for. Like when they had like the Mulan,
like Black Widow and stuff
come out, a Black Widow, and you have to pay an extra fee on top. I could see them doing that for their first party. Like, all right, well, if you're a Sony Game Pass subscriber and you pay an extra $10, then you'll have access to this game. That we don't want to fully put into our subscription service. I could see that.
Well, and that it's not a direct comparison, but kind of parallel in that, similar to what Xbox did with Forza with the Ultimate, right? If you're a Game Pass subscriber, you can pay $45 and get the Ultimate Edition, which includes all these bonuses, which that was their first dabbling in that space too. But I think, if we're having these conversations, obviously, like we said, all the PlayStation team is having these conversations, but I think that's what they're thinking about is, is our IP strength strong enough to warrant going day and date for a higher priced or higher value service.
Yeah. I wonder internally, like, what are they talking about? Because wasn't Jim Ryan the guy who said that the Xbox subscription service was unsustainable? Like that model wouldn't work. So I'm just wondering, like, internally, like, did that change? Do they think now it is sustainable, or like what's happening with the leadership there? I would love to be a fly on the wall and just understand those discussions. Yeah.
No kidding. Yeah. And I was going to say the tougher thing about game development too, especially the way PlayStation is structured right now from a first party perspective, is they're really known for not really just first party, but they're AAA first party, right? They're known for the God of Wars, the Horizon, the Spider-Man, etc. And the game development time of those games is years, right? So going back to what Dan mentioned that we've talked about many times before, you can say that PlayStation's first party strength is very strong, and it is. I think that's correct, right? But do they have the cadence necessary to keep people subscribed on a monthly basis with those releases? I mean, I know they don't have it today.
Nope.
Will they have it in the future? I don't know. But I mean, you can look at PlayStation right now, and their last release was a third-party agreement, major, kind of exclusive release, was a third-party agreement in Deathloop, which came out in August, and they don't have another first-party title until February with Horizon. So you're talking about a 6-month gap where there's no major game launching directly on PlayStation, exclusively to PlayStation. Right. So why would someone stay subscribed for those 6 months unless you're making broader deals? Again, to Dan's point, like Xbox has begun to do with Game Pass over the past 12 to 18 months, where they have 2 drops a month of indie titles, third-party titles, AAA titles that may be 6 months old, like Scarlet Nexus, to your point, Kev. So PlayStation has a lot of work to do. I think people forget that Game Pass is nearly 5 years old now, and Game Pass has not always looked like it does now, right? When Game Pass first launched, those first couple years, it was pretty sparse. You had the early adopters like some of us who were experimenting with it, but overall, there wasn't a huge offering. It's a very different service today. And so, I think PlayStation has a lot of work to do in the space if they're serious about really, really, truly competing with Game Pass or creating their own niche that's going to have tens of millions of subscribers.
Yeah, I hope they're not serious about it, frankly. I really don't. I hope they're not. I hope they just go, oh, we'll have something kind of small on the side for people that want it, and then just keep doing what they're doing. Because, like, why would you change your model to chase something when you already are successful doing what you're doing now? It doesn't really make sense to me.
Like
they're already number one. What are they going after? And to the point you made,
are they number one? Just to counter that, will they remain number one with the same business model into the future?
I mean, that's always a good question to be looking ahead and doing it. But they were just saying, like, recently, it was like within the last year that they thought that model didn't even work. So I'm just wondering what they think they're chasing. And to your point, Ains, about the 6 months gap. I mean, if it's a monthly subscription, they could just players could just take their $10 and move it around from console to console for month to month. Like, okay, this month Xbox has got something good. I'm going to be a Xbox subscriber, and the next month something on PlayStation comes out. I'm going to take that $10 and cancel Game Pass and resub with PlayStation. People complain a lot about how now all the subscription services cost as much as cable. And I'm like, yeah, but you can only watch one show at a time. Why doesn't everybody just use the same $10 and move it around depending on which show they're watching? Like, that's what I would do. Like, it's not who watches like 4 shows at the same time. Just like subscribe to Netflix when you're watching Netflix shows, and then next month when Amazon comes up with something, move that money and pay for Amazon that month. I don't understand why people don't do that.
Dan, you're always the exception. You know this.
Yes. Oh, I know it. I know.
I feel like it's unusual. Like, it takes me a while to get through shows, so it's like I do pay for all of them every month, but I shouldn't. Like, I should just pay for the one that I'm watching shows on that month.
There's like that app now, isn't there? There's that app. It's like, so many people pay for subscriptions every month. Like, our app will let you cancel them on demand.
For $5.99 a month.
There's like an app that controls it for you, where you can just like basically turn them off when you want and stuff. So
I think that's what most people do. They set the auto renew, and then they're like, set it, forget it, and then it just automatically does it. I mean, I just canceled Netflix and I canceled Spotify. Like, I'm canceling subscriptions because I'm
you're preparing to not have anything to talk about at parties.
No, I didn't watch that. I don't know what you're talking about. What show, but. Yeah,
that's the problem though, right? I had Spotify, Amazon Music, and like YouTube Music all at the same time, and I was just like, "Why? Yeah, why? What the hell?" I had no idea. I just like there's the $8 for whatever. I don't even know what the hell that is. Okay, I must have bought something, but I have no idea what it is half the time. And if like that's what my son does. Like he plays mostly PC games, plays Halo Infinite. He loves it. Having a ball with it, my oldest son, and he's like, "Man, I'm really looking forward to the campaign." I was like, "Why don't you just buy Game Pass for a month?" He's like, "Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pay $15 and have it for a month, and then I'll finish it. Then once the co-op stuff comes out, I'll get it again." And that's kind of his deal. So it's a smart way to do it, really. We've all been on that.
Unless they convince him to get it enough months to where he's paying more than the game costs. Because if he pays $15 next month or this month, and then $15 when it becomes co-op, and then $15 when something new comes out, he might as well have just bought the game.
They threw it in like 3 days on like Legendary or whatever it is.
Yeah, but they're gonna keep adding stuff every couple months.
Yeah, he might do that.
Subscribing for 1 month, and I mean, players are getting a good deal regardless. I think because they get so much on top of that. Like, there might be other games he tries while his subscription's still active if he's only using Halo. So
Well, you can also share subscriptions, right? Like, my brother pays for Game Pass Ultimate, but we game share, so I get Game Pass, so I haven't paid for it, and then I'll cover PlayStation. He shares the PlayStation side, and you do that for every subscription service. So like, if you have people, you can make it pretty affordable. Now, will PlayStation let me share the new one? I don't know. They don't let me share cloud saves, but we'll find out.
They always find a way. So we've got some super chats and some comments I want to get to. So we'll do the super chats first. We got Mo here. Dan,
sorry, I was reading something else. Yeah. Hey, I stopped running. Nothing. Mo 49 super chat. Good morning, boys. Cheers, chat. 3 more days to Halo Infinite, baby. Woo.
Yeah, man.
I added the woo.
Yeah, you added the woo. That's fine.
That was for free.
Thanks, Mo. Fat Boy Horror in the house.
Fat Boy Horror with a £5 super chat. Morning/afternoon, gents. Great topic as usual. By the way, LGC1 absolutely rocks.
Yes, sir. He said he played Halo in 120 frames on the C1 the other day for the first time in our Discord, and I was like, yes, it's the way to do it, man.
Ooh, it is.
I'm telling you. Yeah, it's stunning. Real quick, there's a couple good comments here I want to get to too. Beast is always very insightful. Says, I have more to say on Disney Plus. The growth is not simply due to Mondo or WandaVision. Their acquisition of Fox brought them the Indian audience, which is boosting their numbers. So, but it's funny because there's parallels there, right? He added, their Indian concurrent numbers on streaming for sports are crazy. 5 million concurrent on some days. That's amazing. But what I was going to say is there's some parallels there because as Xbox has not been shy about talking about, right, is that excuse me, is that this global audience has been closed off from the console market to a degree for forever now, basically as long as consoles have existed. And things like Game Pass, like cloud streaming, right, open that access much broader. And I think that's part of what they're trying to capitalize on to a degree. So I think those parallels are interesting. Beast also says, excuse me, that we were talking about cadence of releases, right? And subscription service and keeping people engaged. And he points out that there's 25 current projects on PlayStation first party versus 58 in the works over on the Xbox side. So, which we know, right? I know we know a whole bunch of the Xbox exclusives that are coming, and people that I've spoken to that are, we're familiar with kind of the more inner workings like Jazz, right, have said that's not even half of what they have in the works. So as we continue to reiterate, these next few years are going to be pretty wild.
Yeah, I mean that's what they have to do. I think that's when you go to this service. I mean, you look at Netflix. There's a lot of stuff that comes out from Netflix that people don't even really know about or isn't.
Dude, literally every day I turn it on. There's
every
something
day,
new, and I'm like, good Lord.
Yeah, and that's when you go down this route, then you have to make sure you're supported, and they are doing that, and that's great to see. Because it makes my dollar go a little bit farther. So yep. I'm all for it, man.
Agreed. Well, I think on that topic, we'll see what comes. It's supposedly it's launching in spring, so we should start to hear about it here in the next few months. We'll see what they offer. As I said, I really do hope that it's more than just kind of merging PS Plus and PS Now and adding tiers. And I didn't realize, Kev, that was some good insight on PS Now. I didn't realize there was only 16 PS2 games, you said?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yes. I'm pretty sure I counted 16.
That's why is it so limited? That seems bizarre to me.
I'm not sure. And those are only I guess, because I didn't have a PlayStation 4, but I guess during the PlayStation 4 era, they brought forward some PS2 games, and those are the select PS2 games that were brought forward to PS4. So they ported those, and that's why they're on the service. So apart from that, there's if they didn't get brought forward, there's no PS2 games on there. The new tier they're talking about, you'd have PS1, PS2, PSP, it said, which as someone that hasn't had a PlayStation, yeah, I'd be all about like trying out the games I missed if the catalog is there, but
you don't want to do that.
No
PSP was amazing when it came out. I still remember first seeing the device and using it and everything. Going back and playing a PSP game on your TV nowadays is like,
where's the PS Vita games though? Like,
they're also not good though.
Well, doesn't PS Vita have a lot of like? Doesn't PS Vita have a lot of like shared games with like PS3? Like,
it does have some. Yeah.
Yes, that you have to use a touchpad that's on the back of the console for. Is a nightmare.
I like the Vita. Leave the Vita alone.
Oh my god, dude, no. I was like, I think I bought 2 Vitas, and both of them I was just like, this is like such a mistake. I shouldn't have done this.
Vita was ahead of its time.
I get that the people like it for the indies and stuff like that, but like all the major games I bought it, and I was just like, I don't want to be here. This is terrible.
I got Persona 4. That's all. Yeah, that's all you need.
And Vita, funny enough, it's one of those things with collectors now that like a Vita and all their hard copies are just skyrocketing in value. Yeah. So I've got some of them.
They killed it, Ains.
I know. Look what they did to my boy. I love the Vita, man. All right, we'll move on from that. Obviously, there'll be a lot more conversation on that in the future. But let's move on to a couple other things. I want to talk about Battlefield. Because quite frankly, nobody's talking about Battlefield 2042, it seems. Launch has been less than stellar. We've already kind of touched on that previously. I don't know what the player base looks like, but it's pretty clear by the news that came out this week that EA cares about Battlefield and some major changes are coming.
Well, somebody does.
Are happening. Are happening. So if you did see this, I'll kind of run down all the moves because they are interesting for sure. So DICE general manager Oscar Gabrielson is leaving the company to pursue new endeavors. They didn't say where he's going, but he is leaving. Rebecca Kutaz, I believe that's pronounced the way it's pronounced, who is the former studio director at Ubisoft Annecy, is taking over as GM of DICE. In parallel to this, Vince Zampella, who we all know from Call of Duty fame and now Respawn fame, he has been put in charge of basically overseeing the entire Battlefield IP or franchise. And I do kind of find it funny. I mean, most of what Zampella touches turns to gold. I mean, he just kind of knows what to do with these shooters. So I can see this as a good move. He has a very positive reputation. But it is interesting to me that EA has just continually promoted Zampella to try and either create and or fix anything going wrong with their IP. So he's kind of now overseeing everything. Meanwhile, Marcus Leto, who was part of the original Halo team back at Bungie, he is now running a new studio in Seattle. If you remember, he opened V1 Interactive that launched, Disintegration last year, which basically fell flat. And he had to shut down that studio. It sounded like it was a pretty tumultuous time for him. But kind of rising from the ashes, if you will, he's being leading a new studio under EA in Seattle. And he is going to work directly with DICE and their other new studio, Ripple Effect, on improving Battlefield 2042 into the future and adding some narrative elements to the game. Now, they didn't describe exactly what that means, but here's a couple comments directly about that. And these comments come from a gentleman named Byron Bede, who is a Call of Duty veteran. He helped grow Call of Duty, and EA has hired him as well to help kind of save Battlefield, if you will. So Leto and his team in Seattle will expand Battlefield 2042's narrative across a variety of experiences. These will lay the foundation for storytelling opportunities now and well into the future. And what Leto's team creates will show up in later seasons of Battlefield 2042 and beyond. While he and his team in Seattle area are just getting started on building Battlefield World of Tomorrow, their work will shape later seasons for 2042 and beyond. This new studio will act as the driver for narrative in tight collaboration with DICE and Ripple Effect to help build greater player experiences in the Battlefield universe. So that's a lot to break down there, but what I find most interesting here as I kind of talk through it is that they have Call of Duty, Titanfall, and Halo veterans now all working and overseeing Battlefield. And I have the main question I have to ask here is, why did this take so long? Why have they let Battlefield just flounder for years now when it was such a popular IP that at this point people are just, I think, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I know for me, I'm just frustrated with it. Frustrated that they can't deliver a good Battlefield game.
It's an oversaturated area now. I mean, you've got Call of Duty, you've got Halo. You come out flailing with 2042. See, there it is, guys, and then that's it. I mean, what do you? And now you take Vince Zampella, who is, I think, one of who's produced some of the great. It was Titanfall. Didn't he do the Jedi game?
Modern. Well, they did. Yeah, they did Fallen Order at Respawn.
Fallen Order,
but he
right,
became famous
Respawn.
for his work on Modern Warfare back in the day.
Right. Yeah. So the guy knows his stuff.
Yes.
Right. And now he's going to be. You're throwing him at this franchise that has basically gotten progressively worse over the last 3 iterations, and I understand why you're doing it. It just makes me kind of sad that he's not going and doing something else that I might enjoy playing. And that's more of a personal kind of thing to me. I'd like to see him do another Titanfall, maybe like a Titanfall 3 or something, which we'll probably never get.
He did tease that Titanfall is not
right.
over.
It's not right, but yeah, whatever that means. Regardless, I mean, your whole spiel totally confused me. I don't know any of these people except for Vince. So good luck.
I don't know Marcus Leto. Come on now.
I don't know any of them.
Do some research.
Good luck, Vince. That's my hot take for the day. So that's all I got, man.
Guys.
Battlefield guys.
So I'll hop in. Obviously, my main concern is that we're going to see Battlefield shift and I don't know if concern is the right word, but we're going to see Battlefield shift towards a Call of Duty style yearly development type where you get, ripple effect and whatever other studios in EA, they're going to start, okay, well, you have Battlefield for this year, then you get Battlefield for next year. And maybe it's all contained in one game because they're talking about like a Battlefield universe, connected, really expanding. And maybe some people get narrative storytelling aspects to work on. Other people focus on the multiplayer. Do we want that for Battlefield? Like Battlefield has always tried to set itself apart from Call of Duty, right? Like it has a much different time to kill, a much different way that the battles play out in the actual game. And whether you like that or not, personally, I'm not a Battlefield or a Call of Duty guy. So it's hard for me to jump in and be like, yeah, I can see what's wrong with the game. Tom on my show is the Battlefield guy, and he's very disappointed with 2042. Like this was he was super excited more than Halo. Like he really wanted this one to hit. And when he hopped in and like saw how disappointing it was, all the bugs that people are experiencing, he's put it down until they make some serious improvements. So maybe a yearly cycle will see a tighter development and get rid of those issues, but it could also just change Battlefield at its core. And I don't know how that would be received.
Yeah, and Captain says Battlefield is such a shadow of its former self. They've lost their identity, self-respect, and most of all, hardcore Battlefield fans. And I think that's true because I am one of those. Battlefield was
there you go. Then what do they have to lose?
No, that's the point, right?
Are we really worried about them losing their identity and all that? And
no, they already have, right? Yeah, so I think that's what they're trying to salvage because regardless of what we personally think about it.
They kind of had two bad games, right? Like you were saying that they've been bad for years, but like Battlefield 1 was pretty well received. I remember people liked that game.
Yeah, generally
the campaign was all right. The people really liked the multiplayer, and then after that, Battlefield 5 was kind of okay, probably worse. And then this is really the one that I've seen that sort of was like getting
Battlefield 1 was kind of borderline. It was generally
really?
Generally well received, but people didn't. So a lot of the community didn't like the World War I aesthetic, and then it didn't launch well from a technical perspective, as usual, because all Battlefield games apparently can't launch well like that. So Battlefield 4 was really the last kind of big hit that they had, and even that had problems that launched technically.
Had a bunch of problems,
yeah. But I mean, you're going back to the beginning. You're going to 2014. I mean, you're talking about, several years
for
ago.
Battlefield 4. I just don't think it's been this bad. Like to me, 2042 is like it's a tipping point. Like that, it's different from I don't like the setting that you chose and some technical hitches to like your game is just like a flop at launch. Like that's crazy. Like it's really gone down. So I'm not really worried about it losing its identity. I mean, I'm sort of with Kevin on this one that like I never really liked Battlefield's identity all that much to begin with. And I think that they've already Call of Duty and Battlefield have already been chasing each other for years, like Modern Warfare. And then, Battlefield makes like more modern Battlefield games. And then Battlefield switches to World War I and World War II. And then now Call of Duty does, World War II games. And it's just sort of like they've always sort of like intermingled. I do think Call of Duty needs a competitor in the genre that serves that game and isn't Call of Duty, because Call of Duty has just over the years been like, the 10,000 pound gorilla that nobody can seem to put down. And I like that Battlefield has sort of served as an alternative, but I mean, if what they're doing right now isn't working, they got to change it. So I don't really care about its identity. It's like, do what you got to do, serve that player base. But nothing is sacred to me when it comes to those games. Like just do whatever you got to do. Completely get rid of it. Make it a comedy game. I don't care. Make it a dating sim for all I care.
All right.
Just do something new. Do something new is what I say.
Santa Claus is coming, so
there you go.
Santa Claus is coming to
2042. That's right.
I don't know. I think it's obvious that the IP itself holds a lot of weight still, right? And to Kev's point with his friend and many people I know, a few who are in the chat, I know Sarko is a gigantic Battlefield fan, and a lot of hype and hope for 2042 as kind of the savior, if you will, of the franchise. People were looking at that as being the new thing from Battlefield, and like I said, that's why there was such crushing disappointment when I first played it, because I was like, oh god, this isn't good. And I sadly now the world's realized that this isn't good, as everyone's kind of gotten into it, and now they're talking about spending years trying to fix it and add to it, and it's like, yeah, but again, as we continue to seemingly talk about with some of these major games, the damage has been done. Even if you can kind of recoup the audience over time, it may take years, but the damage here is pretty strong. So we'll see. If you're talking about multiple studios, I mean, DICE is already a huge studio with partner studios, and now you're talking about Ripple Effect and another new studio in Seattle, all being focused on Battlefield. This investment is huge from EA, so they know that the IP has value. But what is this going to look like, and do they actually get it done? Who knows? We'll see. Yeah. Good thing Halo's out, because I tell you, if Halo wasn't here this fall and Battlefield launched like it did, I'd be a sad person right now.
Oh, you'd be playing Forza.
Well, I know, but I need my multiplayer, like, competitive fix, you know what I mean? And Call of Duty doesn't do it for me, so I'd be just disappointed. But luckily, Halo's amazing, so I'm in good shape.
Yeah, I remember listening to Bad Bit talk about how excited he was for Battlefield, and I don't even know if has even jumped into it. Like, I feel like he told me he wasn't playing it.
No, he's not playing it.
Yeah.
No, I think that's true of most of us, right? Like, I have it. I haven't touched it, which is just a shame. I played a little bit of the Portal since it came out, but right now, man, it's just Halo's too good. Like, why would I boot up Battlefield when I have Halo? There's no reason.
They're very different games.
They are, but I mean, you're talking about just fundamentally the mechanics are so polished in Halo, and they're so screwy in Battlefield. It's just not.
I think if Battlefield 2042 came out and was a functional, well-developed game, right? Like, if it had gotten another year to be worked on like Halo did, and they ironed out all the stuff, I think you would want to play both for very different reasons, because you get that. To me, they're not even close to the same game, right? Like, they're different in style, they're different in the game types that you're playing, the player counts, the kind of chaos versus like polished arena shooter. I just think they could both have been successful. I think, of course, even Call of Duty could even have been successful, and there are people who would have bought all three and sort of been jumping between all three. It's just that right now you don't really have an option, and so now everybody's just complaining about Halo cosmetics, because that's the only thing that's really talk about.
Yeah, which funny, and Jordan in chat is saying, because that he and I were pretty big Battlefield fans, and we were looking forward to doing that, jumping between Battlefield and Halo just constantly. But it's just not happening. And you're right. It's kind of funny when you think about Halo and all the debate right now with the battle pass and cosmetics, because you think, yeah, I mean, it's true, right? That we already talked about. There's improvements to be made, but Jesus, the game itself is fundamentally amazing. Like, that's minor, right? Fixing the entire Battlefield game is a different story.
I don't know if you saw, but like Paul Tassi was tweeting out like photos of people on Reddit complaining about Halo Infinite, and the overreaction in the Halo subreddit is hilarious. Like, one guy said, this is an industry low, and I was just like, wow. Like, if you think it's an industry low,
Nerf Legends.
You have not played very many video games, because this is not even
only
close.
one.
Like, we're talking about this must be the only game you've played if you think this is an industry low. Like, it's just cosmetics. Like, you can actually not care at all about the progression system and just play to have fun, and that would be the game would be, with according to you, like, flawless. It's like, do you guys not remember like Battlefront 2? Like, that was pay to win, like, model. Like, they changed it before the game launched. I'll give them credit for that. But like, the initial sort of like on arrival reaction was like, oh yeah, you have to pay to unlock characters that make you better at the game. Like, that's way worse than, your progression system for purely cosmetic stuff is hard to get, or annoying, or not very well done. It's like, oh my God, man.
Yeah, it's a mess. The discourse on it right now is just messy.
I mean, like the same cosmetics that you can't actually see when you're playing the game.
When you're first-person shooters.
You see them when you get killed and your body flops around on the ground. And you're like, oh, that's a really cool
for me, that would be
armor set I died in. Yeah.
Oh, check out my dead body. Yeah, no. That's not gonna work.
Yeah. Well, that's probably most of what you see when you play Halo.
Yeah, that's why I
Spend
don't
most
play.
of your time at the kill cam.
there's
It
there's
does not matter.
There is one very funny thing in Halo, not to change the subject right now. When you die, and if your guy falls forward at a certain angle, he does like the worm, like the whole time.
Yeah,
He
I've
goes
seen
like,
that.
and just keeps going forward across the map. I don't know what that's about,
Fantastic.
but it's hilarious. Jordan says, "Can we talk about Nerf Legends?" We already did. You missed it. We did a nice Nerf Legends breakdown at the beginning of the
We
show.
did a Nerf Legends
And Travis
breakdown.
has told people that anything you want to talk about with Nerf Legends, you just DM him. He is open to chat about that game, get into some multiplayer together.
Yeah.
He's
Long
open.
story short, 10 out of 10. Pick it up.
Masterpiece is what I heard. I heard the word masterpiece thrown around.
Please don't help these people sell this game. Please. I'm trying my best to not make that happen.
All right. That's Battlefield. So let's jump over to the Game Awards and Activision. And I don't know how much you guys want to touch on this because it just happened to be a big topic that came up this week. So in short, if you kind of missed this, Keeley originally, Dan's brother, originally came out and said that he really wasn't going to comment. There was going to be no kind of formal stand on the Activision, what's going on with Activision at the Game Awards. He received a ton of feedback near immediately, negative feedback near immediately, and critical reception to that kind of comment. So he later kind of came back and clarified and said that outside of the nominations for games that are published by Activision, Activision is not part of the show. And that obviously, the allegations, the abuse, the types of things we've heard out of what's going on there in Activision have no place in the industry. So some people were okay with that. Some people still think he needs to make a kind of formal stand and speak about it more, to use the platform basically that the Video Game Awards have to make a stand on this. So let's touch on that first before I get to the other Activision news that happened this week with Raven Software. But where are you guys at on this, man? I saw people like Naomi Kyle, who used to be at IGN, I believe, and is kind of a well-known person in the industry. She basically came out and said that if she's one of a few, I think, that came out and said that if Keeley and the Game Awards are not going to take a stand and make a comment about this, they're canceling their attendance to the show, which was one side. And then, other people was like, he said they're not involved, so everything's okay now. But I think the point that many people were trying to make is, look, you have Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo, the heads of all three companies, coming out and making a statement and a stand against Activision. Why would the Video Game Awards and Jeff Keighley not do the same? And so I pose that question to you guys.
I think he's wrong about saying that Activision is not involved in the Game Awards. Like, Bobby Kotick is on the advisory board for the show. And so is
another president in Activision.
His picture is still at on the website, like right now. I just went to it live while we were talking. Like, it's his photos there. So I feel like
big smile.
Yeah, it's like that's the dude. That's the guy we've all been talking about of being a big old bag of dirt. I feel like that should be something he talks about. Like what is the role there? Like, are you reconsidering it? Like, you can't just say, aside from the Game Awards, they're not involved. It's like, his photos on your website. Like, tell us about that. Like, are you going to talk about that? And I think it's really just, there were so many comments online about his stance supporting Kojima, his personal friend, when Konami wouldn't let him come to the award show and accept the award. Yeah. That was like a big stance he took that I thought was pretty controversial. He's basically like talking down at one of the major developers in the space, and here, where there's that massive Activision snafu that's going on, he seems to not really care too much, because and maybe that's because of Activision's involvement in the Game Awards show.
It's going to come down to money at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird to say that Activision isn't involved, or that, like, you're not buddies with Bobby Kotick, or like state what your kind of biases are before you take an opinion on this, or before you make a statement. I feel like that's just sort of, maybe that's just because I work at IGN, where you have to say, like, here's my relationship with this person before I review their game, right? You have to disclose things. I feel like that should be part of the conversation. But yeah, man, it's I try to stay out of the politics stuff of all of this, but it's really not a good look in general. And I was just kind of like cringing over this whole interaction on Twitter, and from his first statement to also his like revised statement to just all of it was just not a good look for me. So
yeah, I think yeah, I agree with you. I think you know, I had some side conversations on this, and it just his hands are probably tied to some degree, which is his own doing, make no mistake. But you know, when Konami is not involved with the Game Awards, it's much easier to come out and make a stern statement against them.
Yeah.
Whereas literally, you know, Activision is probably funding to some degree the Game Awards and sit on his advisory panel. So it's
like,
you know,
it'd be like if the developers of Nerf Legends were my roommate. You know what I mean? Like,
so
like it's gonna be hard to flame their game if I got to share a bathroom with them. You know, so
well, and then you know, you start to get into the realm, and I'm certainly no lawyer or law expert here, but I have to imagine that even if he were to say personally that he was going to come out and make a stand, Activision be damned, right? And if he loses their sponsorship or loses their funding, he's ready to deal with that. Even if he was mentally thinking that, there has to be potential for some contractual problems there, some legal problems. I just have to imagine it's not as simple as him just wanting to come out and make a stand.
Just disclose it. You could be like, hey, I'm not going to make a comment on this. They're a sponsor of the event, or they're on the advisory board and we have a relationship with them, and just like state your conflict of interest and then say why you can't take a stand at this moment. You know what I mean? Like if you had said that, I feel like people would have been like, all right, well, what are you going to do? Like Activision sponsor the show or whatever the situation is. But just being like, oh yeah, we stand in solidarity and totally don't agree with that. Also, the dude's on our website like that. It's just such a bad look. Just say what you're.
He's trying to walk a line, and with things like this, you can't walk that line. You've got to make a decision. So,
yeah, I think I agree with you guys. I think that his hands are pretty much handcuffed. You know, they're more than tied. By all accounts that I've heard from other people, you know, Jeff is a good guy, and he probably behind the scenes is like disgusted at what's going on at Activision. I would hope that is his stance of any reasonable person. But then from the business side, he's like, I literally might not be able to have this show if Activision doesn't fit some of the bill. I'm not sure. But is it really that hard to just make like a generalized statement in front of the millions of viewers about, hey, the Game Awards does not condone any sort of, you know, sexual workplace, or like, even if you don't say the word Activision, you can say like we've seen around the industry, because it's not just Activision, like Ubisoft had it. So is it really that hard to just come out and make like a segment in the show about it, and everyone will know who it's aimed at? You could get around the legal thing by not naming Activision. Maybe it would go a long way. Maybe it wouldn't. Maybe people want the, like, we're going for them on with pitchforks, name them and let's go after them. But I don't know. It's a tough situation in my opinion.
That's a good point.
Here's my impression of what Jeff Keighley should have done. Hey, Phil. Yeah. Hey, it's Jeff. Can you guys float the Activision money? I know you guys, you got the Satya real quick and just give us. Okay, cool, great, all right, done.
What's that?
All this money. You know, that was it.
What's that? Forza Horizon 5. Phil,
yes.
Phil, are you there?
You know what's funny?
$30 million.
Look what Beach just posted.
That's what I said. Yeah, just call Sony, Nintendo, and Xbox, and just say, hey, you guys just split their deal, and then I'll just kick these guys out. You know, get them the hell out of here until they change their ways. And that's all I got.
In my head, I hope that call happened, and then Phil just said Forza Horizon 5.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I mean, for all we know, those calls could have happened. But again, contracts don't end on demand, right?
Sure.
So,
Sure.
It's going to be interesting to see. I think it'll be interesting to see next year if we're in the same place, right? If Activision still sits on this panel, or the specific people. Again, I think someone in comments, it's hard to say Activision because you're talking about thousands and thousands of employees, and most of them are probably very good people who are being, dragged through the mud because of their CEO and probably some other, terrible executives like we talked about last week. So
well, to Kevin's point, though, I mean, you could make like a sizzle reel of like industry leaders that are condemning this kind of action without saying that, and that would be humongous. You've got 3 of them that have already said something. You get them on camera. You get other studio heads, from around the industry. You get, people that, will make a difference. And just, this time for this stuff to stop is now, and they'll know where it's coming from. And maybe next year they have to, put in a little extra money because, bye-bye, Bobby.
Or they can just not book Sting for the Game Awards.
Well, that's what Netflix just said. Just get rid of Activision and cancel one of the music performances.
Wait, Sting's gonna be there?
Yeah, dude. I hate, dude. That's like the time to see what's on Twitter part of the show for I think everyone who's watching that show. It's like, all right, Sting's playing, cool. Let me see what's up on Twitter.
Well, they could have got somebody slightly more relevant. I mean, hell, put Keanu Reeves' band if they're still together on there. He's going to be there.
There was one year where they played like the Doom soundtrack. They had the people that made the music there come. Yes. I thought that was pretty cool. But other than that, like if they're not doing game music, like get out of my show. I don't want you here. Like. Yeah, I mean, maybe if they got Usher because he was on the Microsoft stage doing the.
Is he going to sing every breath you take? Because that would be awesome. Let's just go full bore. Gosh.
I mean, listen, back on the topic, but a few years ago, like we had Reggie and Phil and what was the Sony president at that point? But they were all on Sean Layden. Yeah, Sean Layden. They were all on stage together, and everyone like thinks about that moment as like a big Game Award moment. So what if we get Doug Bowser, Phil Spencer, and Jim Ryan on stage and they just literally make a statement about like they've already done it. They've already released these statements, but now you have them all standing together and condoning sexual harassment in the industry. Like you have the 3 big ones already. So like they already are up for it. Why not just get them in front? Jeff, if you don't want to do it, they can do it.
Yeah.
Probably because Bobby Kotick will be in the front row.
They can look right at him, dead in the eye.
And to be honest, I don't know if you want to send a positive, heartwarming message if you have Jim Ryan out in front. He'd just be awkward as all can be.
Yeah. Actually, it's kind of interesting.
What are video games?
Now that you mention it, Kevin, Phil is really the last one standing, huh? Because the last time they were all on stage, now the other 2 heads have switched.
Yeah, and Doug Bowser is really personable. Jim Ryan just doesn't come off that way, man. He's not Sean Layden in that.
He reminds me of the guy who was apologizing for the BP oil spill. You guys remember that guy?
We're sorry. I remember.
That's who he reminds me. He reminds me of that guy. Every time I see him, I'm like, I feel like this guy messed up some seagulls. I don't know. I don't have any evidence. I just feel like he did something to seagulls, and it makes me upset.
The only thing I think about with Doug Bowser is his introduction video. When I think in the background he had Mario and Luigi like a GameCube cord wrapped around them, like because he's Bowser, and I was like, that's on brand right there.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, but anyway, we'll see what comes in the future. I just wanted to bring it up since it was a big topic. But Activision, been in the headlines a lot recently for obvious reasons we've discussed. Some other news just to mention that came out this week, and Washington Post, Game Informer, I know IGN, a bunch of the bigger outlets picked this up, but basically, so Raven Software, who is very, intimate with Call of Duty development, right? They've done a lot of the multiplayer stuff in recent years. And Travis, I wanted to get your thoughts on this because, you have a little closer insight to the gaming industry typically, is that they're QA testers who obviously probably were working on Vanguard, right? And helping with Call of Duty as they always do. Apparently they were getting ready to ramp into 2022 with kind of improved roles, pay, all this stuff, right? This promise to these contractors. And what we see, and let me be very clear, this is not exclusive to Raven in the gaming industry. It's not exclusive to the gaming industry. This happens all the time. But what we saw is that up to a third of their department has been let go after being told they were going to get kind of better roles in 2022. They've now been let go. because Activision Blizzard has ended its staffing partnership with company Tapfin. Instead, they're going with a new third-party company for staffing and contractors. And it's expected over this week, these coming few days, that the majority or more of the existing team will be let go as well. So this is just another kind of black eye, right? And this is the type of thing that I think not just the gaming industry, not just Activision, but that happens far too often in a lot of tech industries in general, is really kind of the overuse and the, for lack of a better word, abuse of contracted employees. And it's a shame, man. I feel for these people, because imagine if you're sitting in a role right now and you're not making fantastic money to begin with, but you're sitting in a role hoping it's about to improve. You're going into the holiday season and suddenly you're just fired and have no recourse. And it's just not a good place to be, man. And I'm tired of seeing these stories. These companies, they pointed out that Raven also contributes on Warzone. And someone pointed out that Warzone, just Warzone, not Call of Duty, Warzone made $1.93 billion last year for Activision. So it's just yet another example. So it's just another example of this, gap between what's going on financially for these companies and how they're treating their low-level employees.
Yeah. Well, not employees, contractors.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, that's sort of the degree of separation. I think there's two things that could have happened here. One, that it could have been genuine. Hey, we have every intention of hiring you guys full time and giving you guys pay raises and all that stuff. And then some other division just going, oh, well, we don't like that staffing agency, so it's changing. Hiring those people is not going to happen. Like it could have been something like that, where it was all in good faith, and just they're such a large corporation that sometimes stuff like that happens, and the human part of the decision making is sort of like broken down by the bloat of the organization. That happens all the time. It's happened to me. Like one of my jobs, I worked for a really large corporation, and it was all like, oh, we're going to promote you. We're going to do stuff like that. And then we ended up acquiring another company, and then that didn't happen. And it was just like my boss was just like, what am I going to do? Like I'm just one guy in this massive corporation. It could have been something like that. It could have also been, sometimes people string along contractors to keep them happy and working for the company for as long as possible, and basically trying to squeeze the last bit of juice from the prune before they toss it in the bin. And I think that's sort of, to assume that that's what's happening is kind of assuming the worst of Activision, which is super easy to do today. I don't know if we'll know until there's sort of like bigger reports there. But either way, it's a super shitty thing to do to people, and a terrible thing to have happen to you. And hopefully these people can find jobs, because it sounds like they worked on a game that was very successful, made a lot of money, and they're probably very talented people. But yeah, I think obviously it's really easy to kind of jump and blame Activision and that sort of stuff. And it very well might be their fault, and something that they should have kept a better eye on. But I don't think there's as clear a villain or like a bad faith action in this one, just because organizations, especially ones of those size, like stuff like this happens all the time. And it's always like, damn, maybe there shouldn't be organizations that are that large and unwieldy. Keeping an organization lean as you grow is hard. So
how long have they been there?
I don't know if that was in the report. Yeah, I'm sure it's mixed. And contractors, usually contractors are signed on for, go figure, an initial
specific project.
Right? Yeah, a specific project or length of time. But what happens often is that those get kind of extensions, or they get told that they're going to be made a full-time employee of the company, and instead they get extensions. And to Travis's point, they kind of string them along and use them as much as possible for as cheaply as possible, because the reason contractors are used typically is that you don't have to treat them like FTEs, full-time employees, which then you don't have to provide them benefits. So you save a lot of money on the back end for health insurance and stock options and 401ks and all this stuff. So.
That happens in construction all the time.
I said it happens in every industry.
It happens everywhere. And actually, I've had some contracted employees work for me, and it's always like, you want to make them full-time employees, but sometimes the people, like in my case, the people above me were like, well, we don't have the budget to have full-time employees. So you need to make a really effective use of your contractors and make that model work for you. And that's like a tough thing to do, but sometimes it's like the only model for certain parts of your business. It's just Activision's probably just being greedy. I mean, they make billions. I wasn't making billions when I had contracted employees, but it's definitely true. I will say the definition of what a contractor is supposed to be is abused a lot. And my company abused it when I had contractor employees because they're supposed to work on a specific project. But what we would do is every month we would just say the project is doing your job for this month. That's your project. And then the next month we would rehire them on a new project, but the project was keep doing the same job you're doing this month. And like, then that continued for like 3 or 4 years where we were just like renewing the same contracted project over and over again. And at a certain point, you have to kind of look at that and go, are they really a contractor? Did you hire them for a project, or are they just straight up an employee, but you're just not calling them a full-time employee?
Yes.
And California has actually tried to crack down on that more to make it harder for you to like use contractors and kind of abuse the system that way. But it's really, it gets so murky, especially with like gig culture and Uber drivers. Are they full-time employees or are they just people driving cars? It's really a complicated kind of thing to think about. So it definitely a bigger problem than gaming, I would say. Like this is just like a problem in general of that relationship between employees.
Absolutely. And it even gets worse. We don't have to keep going on it, but I mean, to your point about murky, it just gets worse and worse because it even gets worse when you start talking about people who aren't citizens as well. So we know, you hire a lot of people from other countries. India is a big one, right? Or Canada, and they are on a work visa, and then there's certain things if they're an employee that you have to do legally with the U.S. and which costs a lot of money, right? Because you have to go through lawyers, and it's very, very messy. The long and the short of it is, in some cases, contractors are used to simply keep financial costs down, and they string them along and get treated poorly, which is, at least it seems, what happened here. But it's not unique by any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. This is not a game industry specific issue. It's something that needs to be looked at. And honestly, I think that if Activision didn't have so much heat on it right now, that this probably wouldn't be blowing up as much as we've seen it. True. And then you add in the fact that they've mismanaged a lot of their studios recently, Vicarious Visions being one that I am very angry about the treatment over there, being a local studio for me here in New York. But it's just them mismanaging. Well, I don't even know if it's mismanaging. Like you said, this could be an honest mistake on their part, best intentions. But the fact that they have all this heat on them, it's going to look bad no matter what.
Yeah. Great. Well, is what it is. So all I'll say is, for those people that were at Raven or Raven Software in general, depending on what happens here, obviously wish them the best as always and hope that someone else picks them up. The good news, as we've talked about before, at least seemingly good news, is that with the industry itself growing so rapidly, there's a lot of companies out there hiring talented people. So I hope they land on their feet somewhere and somewhere better. So, all right. Last thing I was going to touch on is, and we've kind of touched on it throughout the show a little bit, is around Halo Infinite and, some of the ridiculous feedback that 343 has been getting on the multiplayer side. We've got campaign coming out in a few days. So we'll see what that, a lot of coverage of that starting very, very soon. But in terms of multiplayer, they came out yesterday and just clarified that they're going to be adding playlists before the holiday season. So very soon, next week or two. Specifically, they're going to be adding Fiesta, Free For All, and SWAT, which is really cool, before Christmas. And of course, they're looking at just a straight Slayer playlist, which is obviously high. A
Slay list, if you will.
A slay list on which is high on a lot of people's lists, for lack of a better word.
I think it shouldn't be, personally.
We'll get to that.
I think an all Slayer playlist is such a mistake, like that, because people won't play the objective modes, and they should be forced to, because objective modes are super fun, and just killing people is too basic. Sometimes, maybe every once in a while, but come on, there's got to be an objective.
I like this guy.
Yeah, the objective is to kill people.
Okay.
People are so boring though. It's like, of course, I just want to slay. I just want to kill. It's like, okay, well, like, could you do two things at the same time, or is that too much for you to process? I think the objective modes in Halo are what make it unique and cool. And people are like, oh, I want to suck all the fun out of it and play the most dull mode that there is, just the straightforward killing. It's so annoying to me. And now the objective playlists are going to start to wither because like I don't want to play oddball. It's like, okay, bro. The only thing I'll say is that I hope that them going to the slay list means that the objective playlist actually has people who know how to play objective. That's my one hope. Is that
me too,
who want to play it and know how to do it. That's my one hope. But if you play on the Slayer playlist, like I bet you like plain toast. I bet you that's your favorite meal. Yeah. It's like, get out of here with that. Anyway.
So the other comment I was going to add before this semi-rant from Travis is that they're also making more updates to the Battle Pass at the same time. So we're going to see more updates to the Battle Pass and new playlists prior to the holidays. I do tend to agree with Travis. We were playing last night, and it's very frustrating. There's two things that are compounding frustration with some randoms online right now. Is one, people just going for challenges because we talked previously around, they have like Kevin trying to get his pulse carbine kills, right? Meanwhile, I'm holding the oddball and getting shot in the face while he's peppering them with pulse carbine for some odd reason. And then also the fact, like you said, is that, we get into an oddball match and suddenly half your team quits because they don't want to play oddball. And it's like, come on, guys. Like you're still shooting people. That's the only thing I don't understand. Like I get people wanting Slayer. I get it. And I have friends I play with who want Slayer, and I'll play it occasionally, but it's just like, is it that bad to play an objective playlist? I don't understand it. So, Jordan says Travis strikes me as an avocado toast with shaved truffles kind of guy.
Sounds delicious.
I'm from California. What can I say? The avocado is a delicious fruit.
So anyway, all I would say to this, and this is a very, very obvious statement that I'm sure anyone here watching the show kind of echoes, is that for God's sakes, feedback is fine, right? Give feedback. 343 is taking all of this feedback. In fact, I'll continue to argue that if you look across the industry and what's happening with games from big publishers and developers, 343 is one of the most transparent companies out there. I mean, they're talking constantly about the changes they're making, what's coming. They have live streams. I mean, they're always communicating with their fans. There is literally zero reason. There's less than zero reason to go crazy attacking 343 employees over cosmetics or playlists. I mean, are you kidding me? How entitled can you possibly be? It's baffling.
On a free game?
On a free-to-play shooter.
Yeah,
this is something new to the industry.
It's not. That's what I said. This is obvious, but still,
it probably happens like all the time in like Fortnite and all those other garbage games. But yeah, I mean, what is Fiesta? It sounds awesome.
Gun game.
Like Fiesta
is where you spawn with two random weapons every time you die. Completely.
I really hope. So I have some feedback on the Fiesta match, which is that they should add objective to the Fiesta match, because Fiesta CTF, but Fiesta Capture the Flag is one of the best experiences you'll ever have. Like it's so silly and over the top.
I also want BTB Fiesta like they had in Halo 5, which is a blast.
That'd be great. There's a lot of stuff. I feel like they could streamline a couple, like if they do free for all as a playlist, they should just shove every possible mode into free for all that can exist there, including Juggernaut, which we've not seen yet, but that needs to be one of the modes, because that Juggernaut is like, come on, who doesn't like Juggernaut? It really only works in free for all, but it's such a good mode.
It is a good mode. There's a lot of good modes. I think the one thing that kind of not concerned me, I'll say, but did kind of add some confusion to me when they talked about this, when Sketch kind of gave his spiel on Reddit that he posted. So the community director for 343 is he talked about how the way the game is built and structured with the UI and particularly the systems that lay on top of one another is that they're not as fluid and not as able to change playlists or implement playlists as quickly as people kind of want them to, which is interesting to me, because now you're starting to get into the space where my career is based in, right, in application development. And what that tells me, some of the wording he used about knock-on effects and stuff, tells me that they have underlying systems at play in the slipspace engine that are going to require extra teamwork and basically just extra work overall from multiple teams to implement what from the outside look to be small changes. And that is a little concerning because
I actually so I agree that
you've interrupted me like 15 times during the show. Because all I was going to say is that what it means is that if you're thinking like, okay, next week the players get to vote on a fresh playlist, right? And then the following week they'll get it active. That doesn't seem to be able to come to fruition because the time they need to make things active is just longer. So they have to plan further in advance. And you would think with a new engine, with a year delay, they wouldn't be in that same place. But it feels like that's where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Travis.
I was just gonna say, like, this is a recurring thing where when it comes to playlists, games seem to blame their UI or the engine or something about the playlist, and I kind of don't believe them. I kind of think that the reason they're not adding playlists is because they're splitting the player base and creating a ton of different playlists means that all of the matchmaking times increase and that the amount of like servers you have to have running and all that stuff. I think there's like other technical expensive reasons and also like your player base not being able to support all the playlists. I think that is more why this is such a drain on people's resources. Because, dude, they have this conversation in Destiny all the time, and I straight up do not believe the answers they give. They're like, oh, no, it's like so resource intensive and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, I don't think that's it. I think you just don't want 18 different playlists for multiplayer because that makes it the wait times are longer and all these other problems. So
a lot of networking issues.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's that. I feel like that's why they don't want to just add a ton of playlists, and I do not blame them. I feel like they should just make a few core really good playlists, which the ones they have could use some work. But I kind of don't believe it every time I hear that it's like just a UI or like a programming issue, or I just can't get myself there to like believing that that's the actual reason. So yeah.
That's a very reasonable explanation, and I think this being in beta, I use that with quotes because it's kind of the full multiplayer release, even though they say it isn't. But maybe they want to see like, okay, what's going to be our consistent player base before we start divvying up the playlist? Because if they don't have enough players to divvy it up, it doesn't make sense to do it. And I'm not like Halo right now is the hot new thing. In 6 months, will the player base be strong enough to support a Slayer, a CTF? If we start dividing them all up into those multiple playlists, we could see those wait times. And I don't want that. Like maybe a Slayer, maybe an objective, but we know they have other playlists coming. Like if you look in the achievements, there's a revive 3 players in elimination or whatever. So like, if they put an achievement in there, they probably have an elimination playlist like ready to go for some sort of event coming up, right? So like they've
literally in the trailer.
Stuff. Yeah,
like it's in the multiplayer trailer. You can see the mode.
And I've seen people post like an infection picture, like so that's clearly in the code somewhere. So they've planned all this stuff, and now I think that they're getting the feedback, and it's like, hey, people want this and this. Well, we weren't prepared for that. We have to try to like go custom make this stuff because we made all this other stuff now, and how will us changing that impact those playlists? And it's a whole thing. What I will say is that I've criticized them, or not. I've given feedback. I haven't been too harsh on that. I think I've given fair criticism, but then every week they address it. They're on the subreddit, and they're very vocal on the subreddit. Yeah. I read like a 5-page essay from the community,
from Sketch,
from a lot of the devs responding to people being like, "You can feel this way. We're not lying to you. Like nobody's trying to force you into microtransactions." So they are very receptive, and they keep making improvements. Like we saw the XP game improve just this week, and I think that's a huge quality of life thing. Like now, if you only play 6 matches a day, you're going to finish the battle pass by May. You just will. Like there's 140 something days left until the end of the season, and you can get a level just by doing 6 matches.
And that's if you somehow manage to not complete any weekly bounties while doing
exactly.
Or double XP or anything else.
All that stuff. Yeah.
I'm on level 84. So I'm literally gonna finish the battle pass probably by next week.
I wish I was there, man. Oh, that's crazy. No, I'm like level 50, and that's like I've had almost no time to actually play Halo. Like next week, I'm taking a religious holiday for the campaign launch. But other than that,
yeah. Well,
that's what it says in my calendar for work. It says religious holiday. Sorry, guys. Gotta go.
I didn't play for a week because I was on vacation, so like that definitely impacted my progression. But like since they made that. Since they made the change, I've flown up. Like it really has made a difference in progressions. Like I have no concerns, even when I'm going to jump into the campaign and probably only focus on that for a while. I still think I'm going to just complete the battle pass well ahead of May.
Yeah.
I will not.
Yeah,
I will not be
playing
putting
it. You're not playing it.
No,
but you get campaign in 2 days, my friend.
Woohoo! Let's do it, man. I don't even know what the hell it is. I've ignored everything about it, so I'm trying to go in completely blind and be blown away by whatever it ends up being. So,
do we know the launch time of the campaign? Is it one of those like Tuesday night at
9 p.m.?
Yeah, great. That makes me
it's
much
not global
better.
launch then, right?
Yeah, and that means I have like 12 13 hours to play the Destiny content that comes out on Tuesday, so I'm going to be back to back Bungie releases basically. It's crazy.
So you're going to go from mediocre to great. Love it.
I would not call Destiny's content mediocre. I would call a lot of the stuff around Destiny mediocre, but the content itself is very good. It's just then you're left playing the same strike for 40 times and you're like, I hate my life. But yeah. Content is
well, I know I'm interested to see. I think if they get some extra playlists out and continue to just revise the battle pass for people still complaining about it, here in the next week or two, and campaign launches, it's going to be a nice nice launch for them, official launch, if you will.
I'm extremely impressed by the rate at which they've given feedback and all that stuff. I love that they're communicating. But if I could, 343, if you're listening, I don't know if you watch this show, but big fan. I have a request that you please do not listen to the fans too much, because they ruin everything and they're really bad at knowing what they want. Like a Slayer playlist. I don't think you really had to do that. So I just want to caution you a little bit. I love that you're communicating. I love that you're doing stuff, but maybe don't always listen to the fan base, because they kind of suck sometimes. That's all.
Yeah. Don't let the fan base dictate the direction of
please don't let them, because they just, did you see what they did to Star Wars?
They've ruined a lot of games.
Boy. Yeah. Look what they've done. Yeah. I just, please.
By the way,
I'll say half of them don't know you have to capture the flag and capture the flag. So
these are not really the guys you need to be listening to. The GEDs that they all have. You don't need to, these homeschooled players that you're taking advice from.
Jeez, man.
Dan, Elu says, I noticed you're wearing a shirt with your face on it. A bit conceited, I feel.
Dan's greatest hits. You guys see that Easter egg? The Craig concert hall that's in the Halo campaign. You guys see that?
I sure.
I haven't seen anything because I've been trying to ignore spoilers.
No, it's not a spoiler. It's an Easter egg. It's like out of the. You can find
different.
It's great.
Yeah.
Ains never seen anything.
Nope.
You didn't
never
see it,
seen. Never even heard of Halo. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
What is going on here?
Anyway, so no, I'm excited. There's a lot of excitement in the air for this week, and I'm just, as a Halo stan and diehard, I am kind of overly excited for this week and for everyone to jump in, and it's going to be a good time. So
Tuesday? Yeah,
Tuesday night. So with that, we're going to go ahead and close out, and I'll just segue into saying that stay tuned, because we are going to do another big Halo roundtable before the holidays, which is going to be a spoiler cast of the campaign once everyone has a chance to go through it. So probably not next week, but the week after. So stay tuned for that. That'll be a lot of fun. We also are doing a written review of I'm doing the written review of Halo for the site, and we're going to have a video review as well. So look for those. I am not even allowed to say when, so stay tuned.
Are you allowed to tell us if you're doing separate scores for multiplayer and campaign?
No, I am scoring the game in classic Halo fashion, which is as a package. Yeah, that's what I decided to do. I now regret that decision. So, but I'm where I am.
Yeah.
So we'll see how the rest of the day goes.
We're giving it 2 scores because they're separate products that you can buy or not buy in Halo Infinite multiplayer's case. So I'm interested.
Fair.
I don't know, how do they handle that on Metacritic? Does anybody know that? Is it 2 separate listings? Because it's got to be one listing on Metacritic, right?
Yeah, I haven't looked.
Yeah, anyway. It's a good point. I don't know. Yeah, I did see that you guys gave the multiplayer 9. So yeah, I don't know where I'd stand on that, honestly. I took the stance of kind of looking at Halo Infinite as all the prior mainline Halo games, which is a package, right? It's always been a package where you get campaign and multiplayer, and I'm trying to take that viewpoint of it. So take it as you will. Scores at the end of the day are the lesser anyway. I hope people actually read the content because that's what's more important. So
well, if it's not a 10, we riot. So
leave season gaming alone, please. We're fine. We don't need rioters or pitchforks. We we are also doing a review of Chorus. So Chorus is a game that's coming out Xbox exclusive here. That's out actually. I think it launched a couple days ago. And Luke over at Xbox Expansion Pass is doing our guest review for that one. He's been playing it.
What's it called?
All Chorus. It's a space shooter.
Yeah.
They showed it last year. It got delayed and just came out. And he's been playing it since last week and has a lot of good things to say. So stay tuned for that review as well. And then in the coming weeks on Bitcast, we're going to have a kind of a unique show because, news gets a little light over the holidays. We're actually going to invite someone who is the host of 2 different Nintendo podcasts and who is a kind of a Nintendo main, if you will. And really kind of involved in the Nintendo universe. And, we've been pretty critical of Nintendo typically here. But what we're going to do is have a show and just have a Nintendo show to talk about where Nintendo is in the industry, what they're doing with the Switch, their decision-making, direction, Nintendo Online, all those things, and kind of, get his perspective and maybe challenge him a little bit as well. Because, like I said, we've been critical. And then lastly, I mentioned last week that we were approaching 8,000 subscribers on the channel, and a lot of people shared that out, and it helped us to kind of blow past that. So as we're recording this show right now, we passed 8,000. We're already past 8,100, I believe. So thank you for sharing that out if you did, and it's great to see the continued growth. So appreciate it. All right, Kevin, man,
yes,
it's been fun having you on, brother. So thank you. Thank you for coming out. Thanks for the conversation. Please let people know where they can find you and when they can listen to Project XTalk every week.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thanks for the invite. Had a great time, guys. Like I said, if I haven't scared you away, you can come check out Project XTalk. You can just click the link. It's down below. So I'd love if any of you enjoyed me enough to come drop a sub. We do a weekly Xbox podcast Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern time. You can follow us over on Twitter. If we ever have to change the show time due to guests, or this week we'll be doing a live stream to the Game Awards, so that will be a different time. But you can stay up to date over there at Project XTalk. My Twitter is at the Muffin Mon. That's a 1 instead of an I and an O instead of an A. But yeah, love the show, guys. Thank you so much. And anyone that wants to hang out with me, come chat, and we'll talk Xbox and any other games you want. So
appreciate it, Kev. Travis?
Yeah, hey, if you like hearing me talk on this show, you can follow me on Twitter at TyGuyTravis. If you don't like hearing me talk on the show, tell your enemies to follow me on Twitter. That'll show them. You can also find me. You can also find me on The Last Word every Thursday at 4 p.m. PST, where we talk about Destiny. And you can find my articles, reviews, and previews on IGN.com. This week I reviewed Nerf Legends, which you can see my review score 2 out of 10 on IGN.com. If you really want to see something terrible happen to another person, you can watch me review that. I'm also doing a preview for an upcoming game called Blacktail that will be doing the gameplay reveal for that on IGN next week. It's like an indie fairy tale game. I don't know how much I can talk about it. And then I'm also reviewing a game after my sabbatical next week to play Halo. I'm reviewing a game where you fly around on dragons and shoot people with fireballs. So that game looks cool. I haven't played it yet, but I'll do that after Halo. So lots of stuff down the pipeline. And thanks as always. You know what else you should do? You should tell your friends about this website called Season Gaming. They do some good stuff. They got some nice writers on that website. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but if you our viewers each tell 2 people to check out the website and they tell 2 people, together we can change the world. So drop a like on this video and tell your friends to do the same, and hopefully we can grow this some bitch. That's what I have to say.
This pyramid scheme is coming together.
It's all coming together. Look at
that. we got an ultra late super chat here from Mr. Cerebral Paul, our friend of the show, who also works with the Xbox accessibility program. So Paul,
Dan wrong today?
He was.
Yes.
He was. He said
Probably several times.
He said all indie games are bad, and that was
that is true. He did say that.
Yeah.
I did not say that. I said I don't care.
You did. You said I don't care.
Yeah, well, that doesn't mean they're bad. I just don't care.
Paul, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right. With that, Mr. Dan, Mr. Stan, Keely, we are out of here. That was Bitcast 182. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Oh, one other note, if you're listening to this on the audio side, sorry, I said this at the very end. Going to be reformatting the audio version of this because we've caught up with a lot of new audio listeners lately, and I'd like to improve the quality there. So I'm actually going to reformat after the show is live. So when we publish the audio going forward, it'll be at a higher bit rate, higher quality. So I hope
also auto-tuned.
No,
the whole show,
like T-Pain.
I would listen to it.
But
just honestly, we should auto tune Dan, because I feel like his terrible opinions would be so much more.
They would be. I think so too. I think
if they kind of had like a melody. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh boy! All right, we'll figure that one out.
Throw those ideas out in the ether and see what happens.
Yeah. Thanks as always to everyone who listens. We will catch you next week. Peace.
Bye.